Forget your blues with the cruise at Rodeo, Drive-Thru, Hollywood news. Ooh, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Rodeo Drive-Thru Hollywood News. I'm your host, Rodeo Marie Hansen. Today, my special guest is talk show host and author Torchy Smith. Torchy, you and I have something in common. We both have interests in Hollywood. You have a talk show where you interview the stars of Hollywood's golden years. What is the name of your show, and how did the show come about?
Well, I'd like to say hello to all the people out there listening, first of all, and hopefully they're excited about that era that we just talked about. My name of my show is Baby Boomers Talk Radio, and I have a website, babyboomerstalkradio.com. And again, I was born in 1947 when we only had 3 stations, believe it or not, NBC, ABC, and CBS. So the kids' programs were, of course, very limited, and anything that was on that was about kids, which was maybe the first one that I can remember, is Howdy Doody, and then the Mickey Mouse Club. And we had icons that everybody, when they went to school, talked about that program that they just saw the afternoon, because there were no nighttime shows except sitcoms. So we really had icons that I remembered fondly, and I always thought, well, if I lived in Hollywood, I was a cute red-haired, freckled kid. That's how I got the name Torchy at birth, and I thought, well, when I get older, maybe I'd meet some of these people. Well, not only did I meet them, but of course my kids got into the business. My daughter was a producer for MTV. My son was an agent. And through my connections, I started out with a few of the stars, and started with the Mouseketeers and took it from there, and it grew.
Nice. As a member of Generation Z, I've always known the internet and social media and lots of choices for television entertainment. You are a baby boomer. Can you explain what that means, and what is one difference between kids growing up in your generation and mine?
Oh, wow. Well, I just about covered that on my first question, but there is so many choices for kids today. When they get to be my age, they probably won't remember all of them. Nobody's going to stand out because there are so many that come and go. Again, the entertainment pie was cut up into fewer slices when I was growing up, and today there's thousands of choices, almost seems like that, and so everything is kind of melted and murky, and it will be so when your generation gets to be my age. So that's my answer, the best I can answer it. Since I don't live in your generation, but I certainly have kids and grandchildren. So
That's great. You have written a book entitled Shooting the Breeze with Baby Boomer Stars. How did the book come about, and what is one special thing that people will learn from reading it?
Well, after I did all these interviews and met all these people, I started going to shows, these signature shows, and then I got friendly with some of the stars from the past, and I even represented some of them at the shows. I branched out, and so little by little, my interest became much bigger. And again, I'm somebody who is 71 now, but 3 years ago when I started all this, I was probably the only one that my friends that I knew that had the technical skills. A lot of them are kind of afraid of the internet, and don't understand it, and they're not computer savvy like I am. So with those two things I had, and with my connections, I was able to start a talk show, and eventually a guy got picked up by iHeartRadio, and it branched out from there.
Mm-hmm. Getting work as an actor can be pretty tough. There's a story about Stephen First, who played the role of Flounder in the movie Animal House, doing something unique to get auditions. Can you share the story?
Sure. Animal House is one of my favorite movies, and it's probably a favorite movie of almost anybody who is a guy. It's probably more of a guy's movie. Growing up in that era, and I felt like I lived through Animal House actually. And I was kind of afraid to call Steven at first, but when I called him, what I didn't realize, he was a pretty sick guy. He had diabetes problems and other problems of health, and he gave me an interview, and he was a little grouchy, but he wasn't the Flounder that I remembered him on Animal House. And he told me a story. I asked a question just like you asked me of how you got started. Well, he went out to L.A. not knowing anybody, and he was married, and he packed up a U-Haul, which somebody smashed into on the way there. And when they transferred the U-Haul, he probably only had half his stuff, and it was kind of a bad beginning, and he had to take a job as a pizza delivery boy. So here he was delivering pizzas, and he thought, I'm going to put my resume and staple it to the pizza box along with my headshot. And lo and behold, after a while, a guy named Marty Simmons, the producer of Animal House, saw that on a pizza box, and bingo, that's how he got started, and that's how he got into the movie.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, it was. It was. It usually doesn't work that way. I'll tell you. Usually, it's a lot more hard work, a lot more disappointments, and thousands and thousands of people go out there trying to make it and end up coming back home, of course.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a difference between the stars of today and those who were famous in the 1950s and 60s?
Oh, yes. The big thing is money. Money, money, money. And that's what show business is all about. Many of the people that you see on reruns, and I don't know if your listeners go to MeTV or retro TV stations, but anything from Leave It to Beaver to, there's so many of them out there now, Lassie, Eddie Munster, all these shows that these kids are on and big hits got no residuals whatsoever. And so you take a TV series like Friends, where they got almost $1 million an episode, and then they get residuals. If you hit it big in Hollywood today, you have a good income coming from the residuals. Those kids got none. And it changed about 1965, 66, somewhere around then, and the residuals were not even that big. So I've heard of stars today, stars from yesteryear of my day getting a check for 13 cents on a residual. So there's one of the biggest differences.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And sad in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
So,
of all the celebrities you have interviewed, which one was most unlike the characters they portrayed on screen, and why?
Oh boy, you're gonna get me in trouble on that one. I plead the fifth. Let's see. Well, I used this example before. I won't say she's was different, but she was different in a good way. And a lot of your listeners may have heard of Laverne and Shirley or Happy Days, and that was an actress, Cindy Williams, who was also in American Graffiti, and she was very popular. And when I interviewed her, I had a truck outside, or I heard a big boom, and my cable got cut, and a lot of things went wrong. And it took me 2 weeks to get the interview, and I was begging her almost to do it again at some other time. She said she was so nice about it, totally not like some other people who would just say forget it. And so that night, I got her, and she had been in Vegas at that period of time of her life, and she was doing a Broadway kind of play in Vegas, and she called me back. It was pretty late on her time, and she got a little political, and more to the, how can I say it, more conservative than a lot of her friends, and she started saying some things that may have been anti-Hollywood, let me put it that way also, and started mentioning certain people and this and that, and she was just went off, and I, oh my gosh, some of the things she was saying. So the next day, she called me back up and got a hold of me. She says, you got to change that. You've got to edit that whole thing. Oh my gosh, and I wasn't good at editing, I'll tell you. It took me hours, and I didn't even know what to edit, to tell you the truth. And so she called me back the next day, and then she heard it. She just thanked me up and down, and we sort of became friends. And I saw her months later at a show. We laughed about it. So there's an incident. I'm not going to tell you the bad ones. There are a few who are different, and I don't want to get in trouble. So I'll plead the fifth on those.
Cool. How did you get the name Torchy?
Oh, how did I get the name? Well, believe it or not, I had it right at birth. The nurse brought me to my mother, and she said I had bright red hair. And she said, here's your little torch. And so that was it. They named me Torchy. And I didn't know my real name in school for a while, till about second grade. And the teacher said, no way, we can't keep calling you Torchy. And, my little school mates in those days, they didn't know my real name either. I had relatives that didn't know my real name. So then I realized my name was Edward about second or third grade. So it stuck. Since I live I was raised and born in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and I'm not too far from there now. My kids went to that school even. So that's how people knew me.
That's a very unique name.
Yes, I guess it's stuck.
You're based in Cleveland, home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What is your opinion on the importance of music education in the arts and public schools for the kids who dream of someday getting inducted into the hall?
Well, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is interesting. It has a history of why it was in Cleveland, by the way. I don't know if you know, the name rock and roll was invented right here in Cleveland by somebody whose son I know, a guy named Mintz. And a lot of people say it was from a disc jockey here in Cleveland who gets all their credit, but it was actually a store owner who would sell records. He named it rock and roll. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame brings a lot of tourists to Cleveland. When it first was built, I was a little disappointed. I toured it. It was not as well organized as I thought it should be, but the building itself is unbelievable. It's beautiful and very modern. And I'm not a big fan of music of today. I was certainly a big fan of music from the 50s, 60s, and part of the 70s. But today's music, I can't even relate to it. Some of it is good, and when I can understand the words, or a lot of the music is good when I see it in the movies. But our our type of music from the 50s and 60s, for some reason, will never die. It's used in commercials. It's again, the basis of all rock and roll is from my era, so I'm proud of that fact. But I wouldn't even begin to know how somebody is going to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame today. It's beyond me, to tell you the truth. I live in the past, and I'm proud of it.
I'm also a big fan of the 50s music as well. I'm not a big fan of, like, modern music.
Oh, great. Well, that's encouraging because there is a retro kind of generational thing going on. People discover music. I know every kid knows Elvis, I think. Even though you're into so many other types of music, there are certain people who stand out from my era, and you'll hear a song that was a standout song. So there's also a song called "Rock and Roll Will Never Die," and I think that's true.
Mm-hmm. Have you become friends with any of the celebrities you have interviewed as a result of doing your talk show?
How I become friends with them? Is that what you said? Okay. Well, interesting enough, Geraldo did the foreword to my book, Geraldo Rivera. I hope your generation knows who he is. One of the most famous people from the early days of news, and has been part of the news for forever. And he married my daughter's best friend. And my daughter's best friend, his mother is somebody who I went to school with, and now Geraldo lives here in Shaker Heights, believe it or not. So he was a celebrity I knew even before I started all this. And a lot of times when I start talking and doing interviews, I'll have to call their agent, or I have a secret way of finding their phone numbers. And there was a lot of rejection sometimes. But now that I've kind of been known, I have agents call me, especially if they have a new book out. And again, I met them personally at signature shows, and actually helped work and organize one of them. And little by little, they talk to one another themselves, and I got to be known around the industry.
Great. What is your favorite go-to snack food?
Go-to snack food?
Yeah, like a snack food?
Snack food. Oh, snack food. Oh, boy. Should I name from the old days?
It doesn't matter.
No, there used to be a thing called Pez. I used to love Pez with those little Pez dispensers. But anybody listening in, Google that. That was a famous 50s food. But I think my favorite food is pepperoni pizza. I love pepperoni. And let's see. I don't have a favorite one. I like Fritos too much. I kind of got rid of my Fritos, but I used to eat Fritos every day. And my favorite food is lobster. Lobster used to be a lot cheaper, believe it or not. In my day, you could get lobsters. Everybody would serve them, and even though they were kind of expensive in those days, my first lobster was 5 years old. We honestly do. Yeah.
Where can someone buy your book and find you or your show online?
Oh, gosh. You can go to the Barnes & Nobles. If they don't have it, they'll order it right away. And, of course, Amazon. Just go to Amazon and type in Shooting the Breeze with Baby Boomer Celebrities, and it'll come right up. And I have a 5-star rating, by the way.
Nice. Thank you very much.
I was also chosen one week one of the books to buy on the New York Times review list. So.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much to my very special guest, Torchy Smith, for dropping in at the Drive-Thru. Until next time, that's a wrap.
We want to thank you for doing what you do. We want to thank you